So Tara's great ability to be of benefit to sentient beings arises from her compassion, her bodhicitta, and also from her wisdom, realizing the nature of reality. And so, while we have our precious human lives with all the conditions necessary for practice, let's see that the deeper meaning and purpose of our life is to attain the paths and stages to Buddhahood by generating and then enriching our compassion and wisdom. Because at the end of the day, this is what is going to be most meaningful to us on the individual level and most meaningful to society and all sentient beings. So with a mind that appreciates the bodhicitta, let's generate that in our mind as our motivation for learning and practicing today. So before we continue with the jewel lamp, I thought to talk a little bit about the psychology of the sadhana. The sadhana is the text practice that we're following on the meditation for Tara, and also tell you the story about Tara becoming a Buddha. But I'm going to assign you to, Venerable Jamba, I'm going to assign you to fill in the details of the story. You can do some more research on it. And also, well, I'll tell the story, but the story doesn't explain how there came to be 21 taras or 108 taras. So I don't know if there's some reference to her life story that includes that or not, but maybe you can find out. Huh? Yeah.
He was very poor when he was young. So,
yeah.
Later on, he was a great example because people in his village have been, or the village he lived for time, have been afraid of robbers very much, and so he was a very good example, being a monk and showing that he was taking care not to fall to the eight worldly concerns.
Mm. Yeah, so he was an exemplar of the possibility of human beings to change. Yeah.
Was he a robber himself?
Yes. Yeah, he was a very feared bandit. People would just hear his name and shudder. Yeah. So I don't know what happened. Find out the incident. Some incident happened. I think it was, maybe he heard about how afraid people were of him, and that made him think twice. It might have been something like that. But you find out. Huh? Yeah.
Just
Okay.
as you said that, I thought, I've read this story somewhere, but I can't place it.
You heard about how afraid they were.
Yeah, and he was like really shocked by how afraid they were of him.
I think it might be because
Yeah. Okay, so when we see the Buddhas, there's different ways to see them. Sometimes as human beings, sometimes as the manifestation of enlightened qualities, and sometimes as the resultant refuge, the Buddha that we're going to become. So in that regard, some of the deities, some of the Buddhas have stories about their lives. Okay, I haven't found stories for all of them, but I haven't looked. But my teachers haven't said them. But with Tara, there's a story. So sometimes it's helpful to think of a life story of somebody who became Tara, because it inspires us, but also to remember that many people get enlightened in the aspect of Tara. So there's not just one green Tara, but people who do that practice, and that's their main deity, then they get enlightened in that aspect. So that shows that Tara isn't just like some person, it's more than that, okay? But anyway, for the person who, as the story goes, I don't know if it's how true it is or not, but it's a good story. So many eons ago, I don't know how many, in some universe, I don't know which one, I'm saying this for people who like the details. Yeah. Then there lived a princess named Yeshidawa, and she was quite a wonderful Dharma practitioner, very devoted to the Dharma, and very engaged in liberating sentient beings. So before she ate breakfast every day, she would, liberate so many sentient beings from samsara. And before she ate lunch, she would, liberate another mass, and before dinner, another mass. So when we say that she liberated them, it means she taught them the Dharma and guided them so that they gained the realizations. So she became quite well known as somebody whose teachings and guidance liberated sentient beings. So some of the monks at that time came to her and said, you're so good at liberating sentient beings, and you're such a wonderful Dharma practitioner, that in your next life you should really consider being born as a man. And she looked at them and said, well, fellas, no, I'm sure she was more gracious. She said, no, I'm going to be reborn as a woman until I attain full awakening. And so she did that, and then when she became a Buddha, her name was Tara, Arya Tara. So Arya, someone who's realized emptiness. Arya also meaning like noble. And then the word Tara in Tibetan is drolma, drolma. It means to liberate. Yeah, so that's why she's called Tara the Liberator. There's also another story that says that that Tara was born from the tear of Chenrezig. That Chenrezig was working very diligently to free living beings from the lower realms, and the lower realms would just fill up again right away, and so he started to cry with compassion, and Tara was born from one of his tears and said, don't worry, I'll help you liberate sentient beings. So that's another story, but it's when you think about her as being the liberator and what that means, it gives you some different feeling when you're doing the meditation, that, here's somebody known as the liberator. Yeah, not the confiner, not the boss, not, the prison warden, but the liberator. And so how can I liberate myself by listening to Tara's teachings and following her example? And how can I become a liberator for other sentient beings? Yeah. So you'll notice that in liberating us, yeah, Tara needs a lot of patience and fortitude. Yeah, because she's been trying, for however many years it's been, or eons it's been since she became a Buddha, to liberate us. And we've been pushing against her influence, saying, but, Tara, you don't understand. Chocolate is the real source of happiness. So whatever your kind of chocolate, whether it's, Buddha boy or the fairy godmother or a new car or, some fame or, we have different varieties of chocolate. In other words, objects that we're attached to. We've clung assiduously to our objects of attachment, even though Tara has been trying to teach us and guide us for a long time. Okay, so this is, this whole thing we talked about yesterday with the Buddha's enlightening influence, that the Buddha's from their side always trying to help, but we are the upside down bowl. We are going to the beach, making a career, having a relationship, doing whatever we enjoy doing and kind of ignoring the Dharma. So the thing is that Tara hasn't given up on us. Yeah, and that's one of the qualities, I think, that can really make us trust the Buddhas, is that they don't give up. They don't get fed up. Whereas we, try and do something to better the world, and sentient beings don't cooperate, and we just get exasperated and frustrated and say, these ridiculous sentient beings, they won't even do what's good for them. Forget them. Yeah, and then we walk away. But Tara doesn't do that to us, So throughout all these eons, she keeps trying. And we keep going, but. So it's, it's just something to think about. Okay, so that's a little bit about Tara. And then the sadhana, the text we're following, itself is it's a very profound psychological method for guiding our mind. It's not just something you do and follow the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's, when you really get into it and meditate on this over a period of time, you really see the skill of guiding us in a certain manner. Okay? So I just want to go through that so that people can kind of understand it. And it helps you do the practice then. So the practice starts out with refuge and bodhicitta. Yeah. So all of our practices start out with refuge and bodhicitta. Yeah. They don't start out with dedication. Yeah. They start out with refuge and bodhicitta. Why? Yeah. Because refuge, when we take refuge, we know what spiritual tradition we're following. Who are our teachers? Who are our guides? Yeah, we're being very clear in our own mind. We're following the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And that kind of clarity helps us really go in depth in our practice. At the beginning, we may not have that clarity and conviction in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And so we kind of go around and we taste all the 31 flavors, So I always joke with people that then you have, Hare Krishna on Monday nights and crystals on Tuesday nights and Sufi dancing on Wednesday nights. And, what else is there? Jim Jones on Thursday night, but you may not live till Friday if you do that. He was the guy who told all his disciples to commit suicide. Remember him? Yeah. So, at the beginning, we may not be really sure. We may do Kabbalah, we may do, some kind of evangelical Christianity and hear voices and, these kinds of things and not be very clear on our spiritual path. But as we learn more and more, then it becomes clearer. And so our refuge really develops over time. And at the beginning of the sadhana, to the degree that we really feel confident through having learned the Dharma and checked it, that we're following the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, then that clarity when we take refuge, we're going on this path, we're not going to get detoured, we're not going to be like the flea, who's bouncing around from one thing to another. We're going to stay with this, and we're going to go in depth. And it's interesting, I find nowadays that many people have a lot of hesitation about making commitments. Yeah, even to a spiritual path, or especially to a spiritual path, for whatever reasons. So I encourage people to check up and learn and develop your own conviction. But don't get to the point where you're always, well, maybe something's better, maybe this is better, maybe that is better. My friends are studying this, maybe I should go there. And those friends are studying that, maybe I should learn that. So much so that you're jumping around, thinking that you have to taste all 31 flavors before you buy some ice cream. Yeah? And so if you do that, you get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But you can't go deeply in the practice, so you don't really taste the practice on a deep level, But, it's kind of like, in some ways, somebody who has many partners. They're going, this partner, that partner, always sleeping around with all these many people, but then, you don't get the satisfaction of staying with one person over a period of time. Yeah. Of course, that doesn't always work either. Yeah, so all the aspects of the analogy don't carry over to the object being analyzed. Okay. Yeah, but what I'm talking about more is the mind that is forever dissatisfied. That's what I'm really talking about. The mind that's always looking more, better, even in spiritual practice. Yeah. And so, we joke about it as, the chanting is better on the other side of the meditation hall. Yeah. So you want to go there and try something else out. Maybe I'll try this teacher, maybe I'll try that teacher, or this tradition, or that tradition, or, maybe I'll take a little bit from all of them and mix them together. And, Lama Yeshe used to call that making soup. Yeah, you mix in the carrots and potatoes and broccoli and have soup. Yeah. So refuge is really getting our mind clear about what we're doing, which is a very important step in our practice. And then bodhicitta, that's also at the beginning of the sadhana, clarifies why we're doing it. Why are we going in this direction? Yeah, it's not because we want to become Dharma teachers so that other people will respect us and honor us and give us stuff. That's not the reason we're practicing. Yeah, it's not because we want to ordain and sit in the front row so that then when we're absent, everybody knows we're not there. Yeah. It's not because we're practicing the Dharma so that we can be rich and famous, because if we make offerings, then we'll become wealthy or something like that. We're practicing the Dharma because we want to become fully awakened Buddhists so we can benefit other living beings most effectively. And that's a long-term process. So we're in it for the long term. Yeah. And that kind of long-term goal, that long-term commitment, enables us to go through the ups and downs that happen in our practice, because our practice does have ups and downs. You have some days where your meditation is very clear and some days where it's not. And some days where the teachings really click with you and some days when you're just falling asleep. But when you have the bodhicitta, that long-term thing, then you keep showing up no matter what's happening. And if you keep showing up, because cause and effect functions, you're going to make progress. There's no way not to. Yeah? So that long-term commitment is really quite important. And what's very interesting is refuge and bodhicitta actually come together to the same point. Yeah. And I understood this. I was reading, somebody showed me a passage in Patrul Rinpoche's Words of My Perfect Teacher. And he was saying, when you take Mahayana refuge, okay, then the reasons for your refuge, of course, are, the wish to get out of samsara and avoid being reborn in the lower realms, and faith and confidence and trust in the Triple Gem. But also the wish to become the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha yourself. So that kind of Mahayana refuge, where we're trying to become the refuge objects ourselves, it's the same as bodhicitta, isn't it? And if you look from the side of bodhicitta, that comes back to being the same as refuge, because your goal as a bodhisattva is to actualize the resultant refuge, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that right now we have the potential to become, but we will become one day, so that we become the three objects of refuge. Okay? So Patrul Rinpoche was saying, when you really understand refuge and you really understand bodhicitta, you see that both of them are coming to the same point and kind of encompass the other. Mm-hmm. So I think that's quite beautiful when we can really see that. Mm-hmm. Patrul Rinpoche also is somebody I really admire. He lived at the end of the 19th century, I think, maybe beginning of 20th. I'm not sure, but in the 19th. And when you read his writings, it's like, he just tells it straight like it is. He doesn't kind of try and be polite and nice and give your ego some way to get out of it. He just, and I quite like that approach, kind of like Shantideva, how Shantideva is just like, okay. So then after we take refuge in bodhicitta, we know what spiritual tradition we're following, what practice we're doing, and why we're doing it. Then we do the Four Measurables. So we do the Four Measurables to enhance our love and compassion, and in that way fortify our bodhicitta. Okay, so this version of the Four Measurables is called the long version, and so you can see in each one, again, there's this psychological development. Yeah, we start out with how wonderful it would be, in each one, how wonderful it would be if sentient beings abided in equanimity or had happiness as causes, were free of suffering. So it always starts out, how wonderful, okay? And so that's just an expression of, gee whiz, wouldn't that be great? Okay. Then the next one is, may they abide in this way. So that's getting a little bit more serious. Not, gee whiz, isn't it great? But may this actually happen. But we're still not committed or anything like that. Yeah. Then the third one, I shall cause them to have whatever, happiness and its causes, or be free of suffering and its causes. In other words, with the third one, I'm getting involved. Yeah. And then the fourth one is, please, Guru Tara, inspire me to be able to do so. In other words, I'm taking on this big thing, and I need, support, encouragement, teachings, inspiration, and so I'm relying on Tara, both the external Tara, the beings who are already Tara, but also my own Tara potential to fulfill these. So do you see the development? How wonderful. May they have this. I shall make this happen. Tara, please inspire me. So there's a psychological development there, isn't there, for each one of these? So we can watch it, as you say it, and sometimes do these really slowly, and watch the shift in your mind that needs to occur to say each subsequent sentence. Okay? So these, before we say refuge in bodhicitta, or visualizing Tara surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, so that we're saying the refuge in bodhicitta and the Four Measurables in their presence, then all the figures dissolve into Tara, who dissolves into us. Okay? Yeah. If you have the ability to do self-generation, you can do the short self-generation at that point. Okay, then with the actual practice, then we visualize Tara in front. Not in front, but above our heads. Okay? And so it's the whole description of what Tara looks like. The reason I chose this sadhana for the retreat is because I think the wording in many of the verses here is quite poetic and very evocative of beauty. When you read the description of what Tara looks like, there's this sense of beauty in there. When you read the different prayers, there's the sense of something being very heartfelt, So her hands are as tender and soft as the leaves of a blue upala flower. Now, I've never touched a blue upala flower, but, I can imagine something like that. So, if her hands are like that, her heart's also going to be soft and tender. Okay? So we do the visualization. Yeah. And Amitabha sits on the crown of her head, because the Buddhas all are divided into different families, the 5 Dhyani Buddha families, and Tara, like Chenrezig, falls in Amitabha Buddha's family. Okay? And then, you invoke the wisdom beings, all the taras from afar, who then dissolve into the tara on your head, and you invoke the you don't have the initiating deities in this one. Okay. So that helps us have confidence by invoking, all the taras into the tara on our head. Then that helps us think, oh, this is really tara. It's not just something I'm imagining. Okay. And so then having tara on our head, what do we do? Yeah. So tara, as well as all these other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they're called the field of merit because just as a farmer plants seeds in a field and grows a crop, in relationship to the holy beings, anything we do, the karma becomes especially weighty, especially powerful. So if we create virtue in relation to the holy beings, then that virtue is very powerful. So that's why they're called a field of merit, a field where we can grow merit. Okay? And so the seven-limb prayer is the way that we're growing the merit and purifying our mind by, using tara as the object that we're doing this in the presence of. So it starts out with prostration, and again, you can see in these verses, remember the other day I was talking about we do physical prostration, verbal prostration, mental prostration, so you see it, I bow at the feet of Aryatara, so physically, her speech has the beautiful melodies. We're saying all of this, and we're also praising her speech. Having great compassion for living beings. Her mind is filled with these good qualities, and with our mind, we're remembering them and generating respect. Okay, so prostration is mostly on the side of accumulating merit, but it also helps us purify our arrogance. Yeah, so if you're somebody who suffers from arrogance, pride, conceit, prostrations are very good, a very good practice for you, because arrogance is a big hindrance to practicing the Dharma. When we already think we're so knowledgeable, then we don't learn anything. We can't learn anything. Then the second one is offerings. So, we offer to Tara, not because Tara needs things, but because we need to develop delight in generosity. So it's kind of like, in an ordinary way, if there's somebody we really admire or somebody we really care about, we give them gifts, don't we? Because the gifts represent our inner feeling. So here too, we're expressing our admiration for Tara by giving gifts, and we're doing it so that we can overcome our stinginess, our clinging attachment, our miserliness. Okay. From the side of Tara, if you're an enlightened being, what are you going to do with a couple of tomatoes and a shrimpy cucumber? Is that what it is? What's the? It's a tomatillo. What's that?
It's a little Mexican tomato.
Yeah, but the green thing in the middle.
No, that's a tomato too.
That's a tomato? Oh, okay. So when you're a Buddha, are tomatoes going to bring you, do you need tomatoes to make you happy? Yeah, or water, or, a few leaves over there, Yeah. When you're a Buddha, you don't need this kind of stuff, okay? But from our side, we need to practice giving, Okay? So that's also why we offer our food. You know, it's just because offerings, all the different ways we offer service, when you're doing the dishes, when you're vacuuming, you know, we're offering service to the community, we're offering service to the three jewels. Okay, so all of that really helps us accumulate merit. The third one, confession. So the second one of offering is again more on the side of accumulating merit, but it also helps to purify our miserliness and attachment. And then the third one, confession. Yeah, we confess our destructive actions done with our body, speech, and mind. So this is more on the side of purification. Yeah, but it also helps us overcome denial, yeah, rationalization, suppression, repression, blaming others, what else? You know, all these other psychological methods, transference, what else? Codependence, you know, everything else we usually do to avoid taking responsibility for our own actions. Okay? So confession is just, and it actually, it's not just confession, it's repentance. I realized, I looked it up in the dictionary, I used to not like the word repentance for obvious reasons. You know, and the association of, you know, somebody screaming at you to repent. But that's not what we mean here. Repentance actually includes confessing meaning revealing what we've done. And repentance also includes regret for what we've done. So it builds on confession. So I think that, you know, that's quite important. If there were another word besides repent, I would, yeah?
It means turn around.
Repent means to turn around?
Yeah, change your perspective.
Yeah.
Turn.
Yeah, you change your perspective, you own up to things, you feel sorry for your negativities instead of happy about them. Yeah.
The Aramaic word that Jesus Christ used, that now has been translated to repent, change your ways. Originally it was metanoia, and it was an exhortation to change your mind in a radical way. And that's become this guilt sort of thing, but he was talking about something very different.
Yeah. Okay, oh, that's good. That's good to know, yeah. So to change your mind in a radical way, to turn around your perspective. Yep. So that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah. So instead of rejoicing at our negativities, we have regret for them, not guilt, but regret. We make a determination not to do them again. Instead of holding on to disturbing emotions regarding whoever it was we harmed, we now take refuge in the holy beings and generate love, compassion, and bodhicitta towards sentient beings. Yeah. Instead of running away from the consequences of our actions, yeah, we then do some remedial action to, you know, shift our energy. Yeah. So confession is quite powerful. It, you know, when you really get into it, it's psychologically, it is incredibly powerful. You know, and my theory, I am not a psychologist, is that a lot of times people go to therapy because they have regret for things that they are unable to really process and own up to and put their mind to rest about it. Yeah. And so when we're able to do that, to process these things and own up and clean it up, then psychologically we're not burdened by the past. And that's a great relief, isn't it? Because who wants to carry around all our mistakes with us until we die and then lug them along with us at the time of death in the form of the seeds of negative karma that go with us. Okay. Then the fourth one is rejoicing. Yeah. So here we're rejoicing at all the virtuous actions that we and others have done. So, when I look at the seven limbs, I see three sets of pairs. Okay? The first pair, I prostrate, I make offering as way of showing respect and making a connection. I see that as those two. Then, confession, I reveal all my garbage and I want to turn around. And rejoice, I realize that there's not only garbage, there's also virtue in my mind. And I rejoice at my own virtue, at my own constructive actions, and I rejoice at all the virtue and goodness in the world. So, yes, I need to confess and reveal and clean up, but I'm not going to go to the extreme of, just beating up on myself and feeling like everything I've ever done is negative. I'm all balancing that out by rejoicing in my own and others' virtue and seeing the goodness in myself, and the goodness in others. Okay, so I see those two as really complementing each other's. Yeah, do you have that same feeling, how they work? Yeah? And rejoicing is also, it's more on the side of creating merit, but it's also on the side of multiplying, because it enhances our own merit by rejoicing at our merit and at the merit of others. Yeah? And it's an excellent antidote to jealousy. So if you suffer from jealousy, do a lot of rejoicing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For me, the confession part is acknowledging that I've acted against my own true nature, and then the rejoicing is like an antidote to that, recognizing that's not who I am, that's not my true nature, and I can rejoice at my resolution, resolve to overcome it.
Yeah, my negativities are not who I am. Yep. Okay. Then the next two also form a pair. Okay. So they have different ways of translating them. So the next one here is requesting the Buddhas and our teachers to please teach us. And so this comes from recognizing the importance of the teacher and the teachings in our lives and not taking them for granted. Yeah. Which we really tend to do, We tend to think, well, kind of, you people didn't. You all got yourself to the retreat. But there's, people thought, oh, well, the retreat's in October. That's the month where all the leaves turn. It's so beautiful. Maybe I'll go take a vacation in New England instead. The Dharma will always be here. I'll go to the retreat sometime later. Yeah? So, you people didn't think that. Yeah. By the way, the people who went to the East Coast, I think in Massachusetts they're okay, but from Virginia and lower, they are trying to stay afloat because there's massive flooding. I mean, like huge, massive flooding.
When did that start?
Over the weekend. Yeah, when the retreat started, the flooding started, and especially like Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah, because the hurricane didn't land there. The hurricane going towards the Bahamas, which were also, really hit very hard. But all the water, and the winds and everything from the hurricane dumped along the coast. And, and we're sitting here with a drought, it would be so nice if we got some of that rain and they didn't suffer floods. Okay, so rejoice that you didn't go there for a vacation and that you came to the Abbey instead. Okay, so requesting teachings, and then the sixth one, asking the Buddhas to stay and to keep continuing to guide us. Yeah. And here, the way this verse is written, I think it's so beautiful, Please look with your great compassionate beings, myself and others, who are in despair, being tortured from hundreds of unbearable sufferings. So when we really meditate on the first two of the four truths, this is what we feel, So please remain in this existence until samsara is empty, until everybody's free from samsara. So, both of those two are requests made to the gurus, made to the Buddhas, to the deities, to please not only stay around, but also teach and guide us. And I think it's very important, that we continually make this kind of request. Yeah. If it weren't important, it wouldn't be in the 7 limbs. And if it weren't important, not every single practice we do would have the 7 limbs. Because you find this in just about every single practice we do. So that's really saying these are important. Yeah. So to overcome taking the Dharma and our refuge objects for granted. Yeah.
One thing I like about this is I feel like the first 2 pairs are really, I'm making my commitment, I'm checking my stuff, I'm rejoicing in what I do have that's good, before you then ask, can you guys please give me what you have?
Yeah. Very good point. So we're overcoming being toddlers who just say, gimme, gimme, gimme. But like you said, we're showing respect, we're making offerings, we're owning our stuff, we're seeing our own and others' potential. And then we're saying, please, help me. So yeah, very good observation. Okay. And then the last one is dedication. Yeah. So all the seeds and latent seeds of good karma and of virtuous mental states, we are now dedicating. So we dedicate them. Dedication is a practice of generosity. We're giving away our merit and steering it so that it ripens in a really wonderful way. So we're not dedicating to win the lottery. We're not dedicating so that our investments all go up. Yeah, we're not dedicating for our son and daughter to meet the right people and get married. Yeah, we're not dedicating to win the Nobel Peace Prize or get awards. We're dedicating for our own and others' full awakening. And by dedicating for this, we're not even dedicating for a good future rebirth. We're not dedicating even for our own liberation. We're going all the way, to the best result, full awakening. Yeah. And by doing so, then that makes the merit inexhaustible. Yeah, because usually how karma works is, if we dedicate for a specific thing, the merit will eventually ripen for that thing. And then when it ripens, it's like a seed that has sprouted. It's finished. It doesn't, the seed finished, it brought its result. When we dedicate for full awakening, because it's such an expansive thing that includes all sentient beings, the energy of the merit does not get consumed until we attain full awakening. And of course, by that time, as we were talking yesterday, the tendency towards goodness just continues spontaneously. Yeah. So, this dedication really is protecting the merit, steering it towards what is most valuable. Okay? So we come to dedication also at the end of the sadhana. So when you have refuge and bodhicitta at the beginning of the sadhana and dedication at the end, these act as bookends, It's like, I'm doing this practice, I'm doing it for the benefit of sentient beings so we can all become Buddhas. I've completed the practice. Now I want it to ripen for the exact same thing that I was motivating to do it for, full enlightenment of myself and others. And by dedicating for full enlightenment of ourselves and others, that's implying and including all the good results from having a good rebirth to the teachings existing and so on. But we can also add many more dedications ourselves to really about the specific conditions that we want, that we feel so important that there be. Okay. Then there's the mandala offering. So this is according to the ancient cosmology of the universe, with Mount Meru, Mount Rainier in the center, and then 4 continents around it, and so on. But the idea is that we take our universe and we imagine it as a Buddha field, as a land that was created by the Buddhas with all of their merit. And we offer this, to send to the Buddhas. And the Buddha land we offer isn't just for ourselves. It's not an empty Buddha land just with everything we happen to like in it and the people we like. But it's filled with all sentient beings, friends, enemies, strangers, and we're putting everybody under the guidance of the Buddha, which really makes sense, doesn't it? Sentient beings are, even the ones we're attached to, much better that they're under the guidance of the Buddha rather than they're under the guidance of my mind of attachment and jealousy and possession. Yeah, so we offer them. Okay? Then we do the praises to the 21 tarus. Yeah, so this is also prostration, seeing the qualities of the Buddha. I'll let you read in the book about each one of the 21 tarus. So some are peaceful, some are wrathful, some are sitting, some are standing. Oh, we should bring in here the photos. Somebody gave me some photos of paintings that a Western artist did of the 21 tarus. So the photos aren't real good, but there's something, they give you some idea. And then, of course, you have the 21 tarus on the tanka there. So there's different ways. I mean, often when they paint them on the tankas, they're all sitting in that same, position as green tara. But, when you read this, you see that, they're in different positions and they're different colors. Okay, so the Tibetans love to recite the 21 praises to Tara, and they do it really fast, and it gives you a lot of energy when you do it really fast. It really wakes you up, and gives you a lot of positive energy. And Tara, this practice of Tara, especially reciting the 21 praises, is very, very popular in all the different Tibetan traditions, because Tara is seen to represent success, so success of virtuous projects, also of worldly projects, success and elimination of hindrances and obstacles. So often when you're starting a new project or something new, you want to eliminate obstacles, you want success, then you recite the 21 praises and you do Tara Puja. Okay, so why have Pure Lands and Buddha fields? Part of the path becoming a Buddha is to establish your own Buddha field, your own Pure Land. So this is one of the Bodhisattva practices that they have to do.
And who gets to live there? I mean, Sukhavati.
Yeah. So when they set up their Buddha fields, it seems like they also make different. The Tibetans translate it as prayers. The Chinese translate it as vows. I translate it as unshakable resolves. Yeah. So you in part of your Bodhisattva path, when you talk about the 10 perfections, one of them is unshakable resolve. So you have to make these unshakable resolves of things that you particularly want to do for sentient beings. Yeah, and so I think this comes through, because each Buddha was once a sentient being, and as sentient beings, we have different things that, we're really passionate about, or different kinds of beings that we really want to help. Yeah, and so then when you become able to make these unshakable resolves, it may be influenced by the kind of prayers you made as a sentient being and the kind of work that you emphasized. Okay? So his Pure Land you have to be an environmentalist to get into. Yeah? And the unshakable resolves are going to be, may there never be any pollution. May sentient beings care for each other and their environment in all ways, So according, you make certain unshakable resolves when you set it up. In the case of Amitabha Buddha, his is one of the few, there's a few Pure Lands where you can go as ordinary beings. Most of them you have to be an Arya. Yeah, but Amitabha is one of the ones where you can go as an ordinary being. And that's because of the particular unshakable resolves that he did, and so there's 48, I think, aren't there? Yeah, 48 of Amitabhas, and Medicine Buddha too also made specific ones. I forget how many. Anybody remember how many Medicine Buddha had? I can't remember, but a specific number. And so by the power of these particular unshakable resolves, their Pure Land is sometimes open for rebirth by, other types of beings. Yeah?
So Amitabha's Pure Land and its sentient beings, is his Pure Land in or out of samsara?
Okay. Now this is an interesting thing, like about Sukhavati, Amitabha's Pure Land. Yeah, her question was, is Sukhavati, Amitabha's Pure Land, is it in samsara or is it out of samsara? It's actually neither, okay? Because the beings who are born there, some of them, most of them are in samsara, some of them are out of samsara, some of them are stream enterers or once returners, so they've entered the path already. Yeah, they have some realizations already. But the thing is that once you're born in Sukhavati, then you practice there and attain Buddhahood there. So so it's out of samsara in the sense that you no longer get reborn in samsara under the power of afflictions and karma. But it's not nirvana yet because all the beings, there haven't attained nirvana yet. Okay, so it's kind of in between there. Yeah, Tara, Chenrezig's Pure Land is called the Botala, and Tara's is too. So maybe Chenrezig and Tara hang out together. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think ordinary beings can go to Tara's Pure Land. Yeah, but also Chenrezig is in Amitabha's Pure Land too. So, there must be some, yeah, either a bridge or different neighborhoods or something like that. Yeah.
So materially.
Yeah, I mean, we express this in a material way because that's the way sentient beings in the desire realm think. Yeah, it's expressed that way. The meaning is not like that. Okay, the meaning is definitely not like that. But because this is how we relate, and this is what will inspire many beings, then, because when actually you think about it, the Pure Lands are states of mind. Yeah. They're states of mind. But the way that's expressed is, for example, in Amitabha's Pure Land, there's 9 kinds of lotuses. Some of the lotuses open more quickly. Some of them are, what do you call them, slow learners, slow openers. Yeah, late bloomers, that's it, that's the one. They're late bloomers. Okay, so according to your level of spiritual realization, you are born either in a lotus that will open more rapidly or one that opens more slowly, meaning that, you can come to hear the teachings and, by Amitabha more quickly or more slowly. But actually you can see it's related to the mind, isn't it? Are we quick bloomers or late bloomers in terms of our dharma? Yeah, the integration of the dharma in our minds.
Jordan, you get to Sukhavati as an ordinary being, and then you don't fall back
Uh-huh.
there until full awakening.
Yes.
So for Westerners who want the fast method, then this seems like a really good plan.
Well, in one way, it's a good plan. In another, they say that even some of the bodhisattvas in Sukhavati pray to have a precious human rebirth because you can practice highest yoga tantra with a precious human rebirth.
And you can't.
They don't specify that exactly. There's some things in the descriptions of the Pure Land that don't kind of jive, but we won't talk about that. So this is just what they say, yeah. So, but they say that in the sense to energize those of us who have precious human lives to really practice well.